Okay, so shifting gear here, let's talk about CMMC, some questions we've had around CUI and FCI. There seems to be, we just hosted a webinar and there was a lot of questions around CUI and FCI, confusing the two and wanting to know, does CMMC even apply if you don't have access to CUI or FCI? Could you comment on that?
So the difference between the rule the way it is today, right, where it says that if a contractor touches or transmits or stores CUI, and remember what CUI is, it's controlled unclassified information. It's a litany of things that compiled cause risk. But the difference in the rule versus what it is and what it will be is that we require all contracts to have some level of CMMC certification within the 5-year period. So if you don't have that DFAR rule in your contract today, you only have the FAR, which is the 17 practices in the FAR, but they're non-auditable. The CMMC makes them auditable. So that's the big difference, that every contract will have over the next 5 years at least a CMMC level 1 with an audit to it. It's the trust but verify. That's why the level 1 is very low cost. But it's, we go back to that whole thing of, I said earlier in my comments to industry over the past year, the weakest link. And I regret saying that because it's not the weakest link. It's the smallest link in the chain with the most comprised surface area for the adversary to hit, right? It's really hard to go out and hit a large business because they definitely are prepared. It's that smaller company that the surface area is far, it's a lot easier for the adversary to access. So you may be a small business, you may be doing, we joke around now about the hamburger bun company, but it's about giving you the government is willing to pay you to be to get cyber hardened, right? As the maturity requires, we're willing to pay for what we're asking for, but it benefits everyone, right? So that level 1 certification does more than just validates trust but verify. It buys down the risk of shell and corporate espionage, right? So if it's a fake company, a shell company, they're going to have to go through a lot of work for an audit, for an auditor to show up and validate. It buys down the risk of FOCI, the foreign ownership and influence. So CMMC has a lot of things that we're trying to get right. So it's all contracts within 5 years in the DOD will require at least a CMMC level 1.
Okay, perfect. I think that's helpful. Let's shift gears, if you don't mind, to continuous monitoring. So, how do you anticipate that continuous monitoring is going to assist in the ability to address new threats in real time, and really, how is that going to contribute to next gen CMMC and what that may look like?
So, people get all weirded out about continuous monitoring. You do know the sensors are out on the net, right? That you can do continuous monitoring from a commercially available product right now. It's not going into your network. It's just capturing what is happening at the network edge as data transmits in and out of your network. It's expensive, right? So understand that the government has, there will be no doubt, right? Programs which we need to do that on, right? They're very critical technologies, and we need to have that. But the continuous monitoring that we're seeing from those capability providers has been critical, right? We're able to see a great deal. And what we're trying to do with that information is to get, the adversary has TTPs that they're executing out on today. Those aren't going to be the same in 5 years, and we have got to get the indicators and warnings to move to, I joke around, to the left of. So I think the continuous monitoring absolutely has a piece. I think that it is relevant. I don't think that it's going to be something that we can do DOD wide in all 300,000 vendors. Nor do I think that there's the juice wouldn't be worth the squeeze on that, right? That's a lot of money. So as we work through the CMMC in this rollout period, right, what we did is I took a snapshot of environments in the spring of this year, right? So went through and said, all right, what does the threat vector look like today? And my intent is with the CMMC to roll in a year from now, once we've started to bring that along, what does it look, what does the landscape look like? Are we doing the right things to buy down the risk, right? And what tools do we have? Continuous monitoring will be one of them. No doubt, we'll look to that. We'll be looking to, as people move to end-to-end encryption, right? And we see that. Well, we need the passwords, right? If you're doing end-to-end and you're doing that, token, login in the beginning, are passwords really necessary? So it's absolutely, I see this model, as I've said before, this isn't a checklist. This is really creating critical thinking about security, and security is going to be a moving target. Therefore, it will be an evolving model. And I hope, what is it? Hope is not a method, prayer is, but I really believe that we have the right mix of industry, academia, and the department, that we can really use this as one of those things that, it's a catalyst. It's going to change the way we do things from here on out. And somebody asked me, where do you think you see yourself in 5 years? And I said, what I would really love is that the need of CMMC dissipates, right? That we all get to understanding how critical cybersecurity is, and doing the right things again and again and again are what will buy down the risk.
Yeah, and when you and I talked over a year ago, that was one of the main themes that you were speaking to, is that CMMC is it's not going to work if it's stagnant. It's not going to work that way, because nothing that it's trying to monitor is stagnant. So
no, and one of the things that, while we're on this conversation with your clients, is Congress wants to they're leaning in and saying, what can we do to make our U.S. companies more secure? Right? How do we stabilize our supply chain? Threat information and threat sharing, really, I hope with the CMMC and the adoption and the actual cultural revolution of cyber, is that threat is not, it's not a 4-letter word, right? We should get really good at sharing threat info with each other, because if an adversary is going after one of your clients, guaranteed he's going after their supply chain. They're also going after the competitors. And it's one of those things where you want a competitive landscape, and you want it to be equal and fair, right? That's how our markets have strived, is that we do have a fair marketplace. To ensure that, we really need to get to good on sharing threat information in real time.
Right. And I agree with you. It feels awkward right now. It feels a little clunky, but to get to that point, like you mentioned, where it's just a part of the culture of business, like good accounting, internal controls are, and good, all those other practices. And it does become natural after a while.
Well, it's like the aviation industry, and you have to, the CMMC wasn't baked on anything new. This is the part that makes me go, huh. CMMC is based on the NIST 171. Mm-hmm. It's NIST 53. It's things that were already in existing. Just getting best practices and making it auditable, repeatable, scalable, and the same standard throughout all of DOD. But you look at the aeronautics industry, and when there is a safety issue, right? It's flight. They share information on safety all the time, and we need to look as threat like we look at safety.
That is a good closing point, Katie, for all of us to think about. I really appreciate your time today and being so generous and giving information back to the community on these questions. So thank you again, and I wish you the best of luck, and good job, all the hard work in unprecedented times that you put in.
Well, on that note, I will ask everybody that's watching today, thank you for the opportunity to enter into either your video screen or your TV. Secondly, please stay positive, test negative, and just know we're all in this together. It really is one team, one fight.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.